All right, we're good to go.
All right. Thanks again. Again, my name is Chris Gainsforth, and I am a solution engineer with Spirion. My job here today is to help you understand what Spirion can do for each of your campuses. Basically, what we do is we can come in and we can help you discover, classify, and understand and control data inside of your network and help you make decisions on how to handle that data. Relatively simple statement, but as we all know, there's a lot to it. So what we're going to do is I've already introduced myself. We're going to talk a bit about our business. For the most part, though, a few slides, and then we're going to get into a live demo. And then if you're interested in implementing it, we'll give you some next steps on how to get started. The big thing that Spirion does is we sit in the area between data security and data privacy. We're not a complete data security solution like a DLP or anything like that. We're not completely privacy, but we have our hands in both areas because we go in and we will discover your data. That data can be in files, it can be in scanned images, it can be in databases, it can be on endpoints, it could be in servers. We can do a lot of different things with that. Once we find that data and we know what the data is, we can actually give you guys the opportunity to classify it. So by figuring out what kind of data you have, we can go in and say, this is private data, this is confidential data, this is PCI data, this is HIPAA data, this is, and you can customize the classification to tailor to your needs. We can report that that discovery and that classification in a single pane of glass. And then we also offer remediation options. So if the data is not where it's supposed to be, we can help you. We can help you shred it. We can help you redact it. We can help you put manage controls on it. We can even just do the basic send notifications to somebody who's in charge of that data. So there's quite a bit we can actually do in this environment. How do we do that? The first thing that we do is we rely on what we call our AnyFind technology. And this is our secret sauce. Basically, anything that you see here that is kind of a darker black, and I know it's a little difficult to see, student IDs, employee IDs, and the base CUI are not AnyFinds. Everything else here is. So AnyFinds are pre-built into the system, and they're more than just simple regexes or basic patterns. We go a little bit deeper than that. For social security numbers, phone numbers, we're going to look for things like, okay, it may fit the pattern of a social security number or a credit card number. Is there other data around it which supports the theory that it's a credit card number? Are there expiration dates, CVVs? Are there even titles? Is the word credit card, even around this? So we're going to go kind of above and beyond basic scans and simple keyword searches. So that's what makes us have the highest accuracy in the market. We have external sources that have tested us at 98.5% accuracy in the market. We are the go-to when it comes to the most common legal frameworks in the US, including PCI, which I'm sure everybody here will have to deal with at some point, FERPA, even just traditional PII and HIPAA. We can help you with all of it. So the technical team has a few set up with Sensitive Data Manager. I'm going to kind of explain how the architecture of Sensitive Data Manager works. This is a busy slide. Don't worry if you don't get it right away. but I just want to give you kind of a high level. Essentially, the way it works is you spin up a console server and a MySQL database. So we use a Microsoft SQL database to store our information and to collect our data. And then what you do is you put agents on endpoints. Now, endpoints can actually be laptops going to faculty and staff. It could be common grounds endpoints, could be serve virtual machines. So we use the term endpoint rather loosely as far as the agents. From there, these agents can be assigned to scan different targets. The targets can include cloud services like Office 365, including OneDrive for Business, SharePoint Online, even Box and Dropbox here as an example. It could also be used to scan on-premise systems. So if you have a infrastructure server, a file server, or like I said, SQL servers, that you want to make sure that errant data is not in those areas, you can assign individual servers, or you can take endpoints and combine them into what we call a discovery team, and use those to kind of divvy up the work to make scans go quicker. This is all web-based, so the team controlling this can just manage from a browser. Very simple to set up and configure the initial setup. And then what we do is when we go in and we create workflows by using definitions. And this is where we combine any finds with sensitive data definitions that you can create on your own. So you can bring in a data definition that could be HR data or student data, where you could bring in a custom regex for a student ID number, in addition to the any finds that we have for phone numbers, addresses, and you can combine those into data definitions. And then you can make rules based off of those definition groups. Those rules then you can classify, and you can then go in and you can make actions and remediate on those. You can even take one classification data, and you can even use GUIDs on those classifications in firewalls or even DLP to help provide backup for data in motion protection. So we're quite thorough in our workflow. We do also provide a dashboard at a glance, so you can kind of see everything. At a glance, you can see where your hotspots are. You can see your sensitive data footprint, and we can go from there. At this point right now, I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm going to end the slide. We're going to go straight into a live demo. This is a demo environment. This is not a production environment, so I just want you to be aware. But this is what we call Spyglass, and this is the first thing you'll see when you log in. Standard dashboard, you'll see that there's locations of data that are showing that are sensitive and versus unprotected. So as you can see, when you first start, you're going to have a lot of unprotected data. But as you go through and you categorize and redact or scan or do whatever you need to do to that data, that'll eventually clean itself. It'll show you the number of searches that you've done, how much is protected, how many matches at a glance, and you can even go through heat maps. The nuts and bolts of this is going to be the workflows. The workflows are where we do classifications. So as you see here, being a demo environment, we demo a lot for different customers. So here's a basic Social Security classification. Here is a basic public data. So we have a few that are built in. The rest of these we've built on, and you can create your own custom definitions. So here's one for personal health information as an example. You define it You come in and you can make a definition of using SDDs, what we call sensitive data definitions, or you could use raw anyfinds, or you could even use raw regex if you want. Very customizable. You can control the scope to just a single location. You come in, you tell it what endpoints or what teams you want to scan for this data. And then once you find data and it matches, then you tell it what you want to do with it. You classify it. You can have us perform a quarantine, shredding, redacting. If you have other products that you can use PowerShell scripts to bring in, we can work with PowerShell scripts on that local machine. So if you have encryption software or other software on the endpoints, we can help you with that. If you're using Microsoft MIP, we can help you perform labels with that to allow that. So we have quite a bit of different things going on. I know it's kind of difficult for me to point in on a specific solution because every campus will be a little bit different. If there's any questions or anything, please feel free to jump into the chat, ask your question, and we'll curate and we can stop as we need. We can also go in with these and we can assign users and roles. So that way, if it gets a hit, you can assign it to a user, and you can even notify that user via email that, hey, there's a hit. The way we actually do the work is policies. So what we'll come in and we'll do is we'll have a policy, say human resources. You'll assign an endpoint or an endpoint team to run that. We'll come in and we'll configure settings. We'll tell it specifically what we're scanning for, say bank accounts, credit card numbers, driver's licenses in this example. And then we'll set it up for a scheduled task. So we'll set up a task here. We have one set up on every day of the month, as close to midnight as possible. It starts a scan for HR department data. And it's going to search for it in any of these places we configure. So we could have it do cloud storage. We could have it do on-prem Exchange, on-prem SharePoint, database, remote machines, even custom folders on the endpoints themselves. So we could set up one of these to scan your faculty's documents folder if you want. Or if there's a different subset of a data folder on their computer that you want scanned, you can configure that all in here with no issues. When scans are done, they'll come into a report here. Excuse me, results. Reports are more of a management tool. As far as users are going to go, you're going to see more in the results. Most commonly, you'll filter by searches. So you'll be able to come in here and it'll give you a list of the searches that have been recently done. You'll select a search, and then it should filter accordingly. Now, this is actually being pulled off of a Microsoft SQL database. So it does take a little bit to work. It refreshes every time you touch. So you'll come in and you'll be able to see results. And let's go ahead and actually, let me just reset the filtering. You can come in here and you can check by tags. You can check by endpoints. So lots of different ways you can filter the data. Once you are, my apologies. Once you are done, you can create reports. So you can actually come in And we can show you, for example, actions by data type. So in the scans that we've done for this example, we found 3,010 social security numbers. 65 are unprotected. We shredded 410. We redacted 557. We did not encrypt any. We quarantined 885, and we recycled 492. So we can come in here and we have quite a bit of work we can do with your data. There's many different ways we can do it, depending on your needs. Now, we do also have the ability that the Tech Center can help you with some of the basics. We do have documentation that will be publicly available. We'll work with the Tech Center to get you documentation to show you how to do a lot of this. The biggest and best thing about all of this is the customization. If you go into the administration, we can actually come in here and you're not stuck with just our any files. We can come in here and we can customize the data specifically for your needs. So as an example here, this is a employer ID that we just use as an example, and we use a regular expression for employer ID to give it a name, EMPL. So we can do things like that. So we can help you get student ID numbers, faculty ID numbers, any other types of data that's specific to your environments. We can help you integrate that into here and then have you start searching for that particular data as well. Now, I know I've gone through quite a bit in such a short time. I'd like to take a minute to pause. Is there any questions from the chat?
I will let you know if there's questions on moderating this. So far, I haven't seen any. So
okay. Okay, thank you. As far as the other features that I think that the California Community College system will find very helpful, there's one more feature. I've ran into a slight technical issue with this, but we have a feature available called Watcher. So I won't be able to give you a full demonstration of this, but I'll explain what it does. What Watcher does is it sits on your endpoint. And what it does is it looks for changes in files in a particular folder. So let's say you let's say you have this configured for all of your laptops for your faculty. You have Watcher running on your C drive documents for each user. And somebody drops in a brand new file. Okay, so what we do is then as that file is changed, Spirion's Watcher kicks in, the agent will go in, it will scan that file for any policies that are currently active on that endpoint, and then it will automatically classify that data and remediate, redact, notify, whatever needs to be done. And that's based on, again, the same rules and policies that you do for traditional scans and searches. We can do that on an individual endpoint. For educational institutions, most of the time what we do is we'll usually use the Watcher for endpoints. So our agent installed on Professor X's laptop will just be scanning Professor X's laptop. Professor Y's laptop will scan Professor Y's laptop. Professor Z's laptop will, and so on and so forth. When it comes to servers, things like that, that's where we come into our teams. What most universities will do is either they will spin up virtual machines to act as dedicated server teams, or they will use existing servers that have low priorities, so development servers or test servers. You can use those and install Spirion agents on there, and then you can point those towards your Office 365 tenant or your Hitachi file servers or NetApp or your SQL databases. So I wanted to make sure that everybody understands that this is a very customizable solution. And at first look, it can be overwhelming, but we're here to help you guys adapt and use this to your advantage. Data breaches are only going to get worse. They're going to be more of a headache, and we're here to help minimize that footprint. So at this point, without the Watcher demo, that's pretty much everything that I have at this moment. Amir, if anybody's interested in implementing the solution, could you explain what the course would be?
Yeah, so I mean, a couple of people asked me, so they can work directly with you guys, or through us. Either way, whatever is quickest. And the folks who are interested, please shoot me an email or an email, and we can onboard you on this Spirion as soon as possible.
Yes, I would be more than happy to give more custom data and more tailored information if you have specific use cases that you're interested in, things that you're more specifically interested in. I'd be more than happy to work with any of the teams.
Really appreciate it. All right, so having said that, this brings us to a conclusion of all the presentation today. Again, thank you very much for joining. Very grateful that you spend all this time with us. We give you extra 30 minutes or so, ready to relax and consume all this information that we've presented. If you have any follow-up question, feel free to email me or Omer directly. That was available in the chat. If no further questions, comments, I think we can adjourn for today. Thank you very much. This concludes our security workshop for today.